Hey, good afternoon. This is Jay Frost speaking to you, welcoming you back to another in this session series of 2019 Flash classes brought to you, of course, by DonorSearch. And we are so grateful to DonorSearch for providing this platform where we can invite terrific speakers in the field of fundraising to talk with us about the things that matter to them and to us. And of course, we have Terrence in the background manning the helm here. So all thanks to him for making sure that everything is working properly today. For the next couple of minutes, I want to, of course, reintroduce this platform. If you've heard this before, you'll be hearing it again now. It's the perfect opportunity for you to go and grab your colleagues, get something nice to drink, make yourself comfortable. If you haven't, do stick around for a minute. I want to make sure that you know how you'll get this content after the fact, and also how you can take advantage of this opportunity to engage with our presenter today. So again, just the next couple of minutes, then we'll be doing our introductions and jumping right into another terrific session in this series. And we'll start with, of course, where you can get the content. You'll be happy to know you can get both the slides and a recording this session after the fact. The slides will come to you directly from the presenter. So be on the lookout in your email folder in the next couple of days. You'll see those come right to you. And in terms of the recording, you'll find it safely nestled in the Flash Class library, which you can find by going to DonorSearch at DonorSearch.net. Again, that's DonorSearch.net if you haven't been there before. This is a slide shared directly from their site, with the Resources tab, and then down to the third item, as you can see here, the Flash Class library. If you were to click on that, you'd find a screen just like this one, with was dating back to mid-2016 when the series began. There are now well over 175 of these sessions. Great content there. This is the first time, of course, we'll have today's presenter. So you'll find this one there in just the next couple of days. You can sort by the content, by the presenter, whatever you want right there. So do take a look there, and once again, share this session with your colleagues who can't be with you today. In terms of the session itself, you'll find that we've silenced our microphone, so if you hear any sound in the background, it'll be a dog barking in the background here. I'll also silence my mic in just a moment. But your mics are silent for that reason, so there won't be anything to distract you or distract the speaker. But that doesn't mean we don't want you to participate. We want to encourage you to look for the GoToWebinar control panel, and then right there in the center of it, you'll find the Questions tab, right where the arrow is pointing. The Questions tab is a perfect place to go ahead and list any question or any comment that comes to mind throughout the course of the presentation, and then I'll share those with our presenter at the end so she can answer them right then and there. So don't wait, don't hesitate, go ahead and post, and I'll make sure to share them with Nancy Reeves. And of course, you know why you're here today. It's all about streamlining major gift fundraising and the 4 areas to focus on to achieve success. And we have the right person to talk about that today. That, of course, is Nancy Reeves, who is president of Nancy Reeves LLC. You'll find her at Fundraising Maximized. That's with Z, fundraisingmaximized.com. So do write that down and be on the lookout for that. Nancy is a fundraising coach. She provides overwhelmed leaders of small to medium-sized nonprofits with a roadmap to maximize and sustain major gift fundraising. She prepares leaders to be confident, comfortable, and successful in raising money. Before launching her own coaching program, she founded an education-related foundation, which is incidentally where I met her first. And during that time, her team raised more than $16 million for a very worthwhile cause, I might add. Nancy completed her doctorate dissertation on analyzing fundraising activities. Her biggest discovery from her research was that too many nonprofits focus on event fundraising that nets little revenue. That discovery led her to emphasize major gift fundraising in her career and her coaching. And again, you can read all about that at fundraisingmaximized.com. But of course, even before that, you have her to listen to right now. She shares some of her secrets with you. Thanks so much for being here, Nancy.
Great. Can you hear me okay, Jay?
Yes, you sound perfect.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I need to share my screen. There we go. Super. All working? Everybody's good?
Looks great.
Okay, good. Thanks. Again, I'm thrilled to be here, Jay. It's great to visit with you again. And I love the DonorSearch Flash classes. They are amazing. I love what you all have been doing since 2016. So kudos to you all. I want to start off with a story. And you all know the story of Alice in Wonderland. In the story, you remember when the Cheshire Cat is talking with Alice, and Alice says to the cat, "Would you please tell me which way I should go?" And the cat says, "Well, that depends a good deal on where you want to go." And Alice responds, "I don't much care where. The cat says, then it really doesn't matter which way you go. I love that part of Alice in Wonderland and what it represents. You need to know where you're going. As fundraising leaders, you need to know your priorities and where you need to focus your time, especially with major gift fundraising. You want to maximize your efforts and you want to raise more money. So focus on what's important and what will get you results. So let's talk about, you've already seen this in the preview, there are 4 areas of focus for major gift fundraising. And this is where Jay's already mentioned, I'd like to streamline my approach. I mean, focus on what will give you results. And there we go. And as you see, the first thing to be successful, the first thing you need to do is have a clear and compelling message. The second thing is continuously develop yourself and your skills as a fundraising leader. Third is to engage your board and utilize their connections in the community. And fourth is to enhance your donors' giving experiences. We're going to go over each one of these briefly in the next hour with a little more emphasis on the first one, developing a clear and compelling message, because I think that's where, well, you can't do anything without having a clear message. And I think a lot of people get this wrong. And then the last one, enhancing the donors' giving experience, is the other one we might spend a little more time on, but we're going to go over each one of these over the next hour. But the first thing I want to say before we get started is the most important thing for you to understand in your role as a major gift fundraiser and leader is that you are the conduit between those who have the means and passion to give and those who are in need of help. That is so important. You're going to hear me say that several times because it's a mindset shift that's important. It can catapult you into raising more money. I believe so strongly in that concept of you're being the conduit here. So if you're the connector, and remember that the donors are the heroes. You're not the hero in this situation. You're the conduit. You advance the mission with dollars, and dollars come from donors, and donors advance the mission. All make sense? Okay, let's good to go on that. So let's take a look at the 4 areas to talk about today. The first one, as I mentioned, is that you must create a clear and compelling message. You have you ever met someone and when they told you their occupation or where they worked, you had no idea from the name or what kind of line of business they were in, what exactly they did. They tried to explain it and you were still confused and unclear. Nonprofit leaders, including board members, do this all the time when trying to explain the mission of their nonprofit. Their message is unclear. Before you begin any kind of fundraising, especially major gifts, you must craft clear messages for both speaking and writing. I think of marketing expert Donald Miller. He always says, when you confuse, you lose. And it doesn't matter if you're a business or a nonprofit, that applies. When you confuse, you lose. So whether you're a nonprofit, your name is really clear and what you are doing or not, you still need to be able to state who you are, be able to describe your problem, be able to describe the solution you're providing, and be able to provide and share that transformation of those being served or benefiting from your nonprofit, all while sharing how donors can be a part of the solution and help make a difference. So let's look at this even a little closer, what I just described, a few steps. Who are you? So think about who are you in your most basic, at your most basic level. What I want you to do is grab a scratch pad and pen, just anything, a piece of paper, just scratch. You're just going to write down a couple of things and it's going to be really fast. So when you are clear on who you are, you're able to create the clear and compelling messages. I'm going to show you some examples in a moment. But first, on your pad, in 6 words or less, I want you to write down who you are as an organization. I'm not saying, I don't want you to recite your mission statement. I just want you to write down who you are, like what kind of agency are you? Who do you serve? What is your reason for existing? A very basic level, and it may be in your mission statement, but I want to get really tight, 6 words or less. Tell me who you are in 6 words or less. I'm gonna give you a second. You should know that, but really short. So let's look at some examples that what I'm driving at. So when you see this, excuse me, these examples, these are common, these are nonprofits that you're familiar with. And I went and found, national and international ones that we'd all have heard of. But when you look at these, and I did look these up just to get my words right, as you see these examples I'm going to show you, and the words I'm going to use are pulled from their website. But if you look at the Humane Society, there is nothing in that name, the Humane Society, that tells me that their nonprofit has to do with animal protection. There's nothing in that word. And if you drop in, if I dropped in from outer space, or if someone from another country came in, how would you think about how you would describe in very simple, basic terms who you are? That's what I want you to have jotted down. In the other examples, the Sierra Club, I mean, you think, is that Sierra Nevada? Is that the beer company? Does that have to do with mountains in the United States? Does it have to do with mountains in Spain? I mean, who are they? They are an environmental agency. Same for the others, the Red Cross and Amnesty International. They're both human rights organizations. It is often assumed we know what these organizations do because they are all organizations we are familiar with. But that's not true. We cannot assume people know what our organization does. Now look down at your scratch pad and make sure you have something written down in simple terms, because we're going to move on. We're going to look at looking at the problem that we're solving. Okay, so what is the problem? What is the problem you're solving? Every nonprofit exists to solve a problem or fill a need. There's a gap that you're trying to fill, a wrong you're trying to make right, or a need you're trying to address. Know the problem you're solving or the need you're addressing. Be able to explain it in simple terms. Know what's causing the problem. Know why the problem is important to solve. Know how people feel about the problem. I would like for you to write down right now one problem, what the problem is you're addressing. And I know that there are some of you have several problems that you're trying to solve, but try to identify just one for now. Amnesty International is an example of a nonprofit solving many problems. And I'll give you a moment just to write down, what's the problem you're solving? Simple, basic, short, 3, 5, 6 words. So also work on answering the other 3 questions listed here. If you want to, take a snapshot of the screen, because I think it's important to know the answers to these. You have savvy customers and you want to engage in good conversations. You need to be able to answer these questions. So let's look again at the organizations we were looking at a minute ago. The Humane Society. Okay, so who they are is they are an animal protection agency. And the problem that they're solving is that they end cruelty, torture, and suffering of all animals. The Red Cross, human rights organization, that's who they are. They help those affected after disaster. That's their problem. Amnesty International, they are a human rights organization. They help end abuse of human rights worldwide. Could you have told me what these organizations do and what problems they are solving before seeing this today? I thought the Humane Society provided animals for adoption. I didn't know it had anything to do with ending torture or cruelty of all animals. They're talking about all animals. It's important to have clearly identified in simple terms who you are and what problems you're solving. Don't assume people know that. Now let's look at how you're solving the problems. How are you solving problems? You want to be able to share how you're successfully solving the problems or addressing the need. People don't know unless you tell them. We often start talking in industry jargon and we don't consider that the person in front of us really doesn't know much about our organization. You must tell them, or be prepared to tell them. Think about how solving the problem makes people feel. Are they outraged? Are they sympathetic? Are they empathetic? Are they hopeful? Now, what are the donors, now what are they thinking and feeling about the problem that your organization is solving? Why is it important to solve the problem or address the need? You want to be able to share the solution with donors in a way that resonates with them. This draws them in and it helps them see themselves as being part of the solution. That's when they become a donor, and that's when they become that hero. That's what you want. You need donors and you need their help. Okay, let's look at this last piece of creating the clear and compelling message. You want to talk about transformations. You want to talk about transformations. You want to identify a person or place, depends on your organization, how you're serving, that benefited from your work. You want to use storytelling to describe the before and after of a person that conveys your impact. Storytelling is the best way, it's the best avenue for painting a picture in the minds of your prospective and current donors of how your organization is making a difference. Let's look at the Humane Society example one last time, but I'm going to add the solution and the transformation in the example. Okay, so you see here, the Humane Society, they're an animal protection agency that ends cruelty, torture, suffering of all animals. Their solution is they rescue animals from major cruelty and disaster situations and provide direct care and place them in loving homes. This is straight from their website. The transformation, I found this story on their website. I added a little bit to the end because I didn't see the full transformation, but they did a really good job of telling this story. So the story is about BB, and they have a picture on their website, had never seen sunlight, was living in a puppy mill in a tiny rusty cage in a basement, was forced to have litter after litter. Her eyes were crusted shut, her paws were matted with filth. The transformation is she is now cared for in a loving home, nurturing home. She is fluffy and clean and cannot stop wagging her tail. Doesn't that make you smile after cringing when you first hear BB's story? Make the donor feel the cruelty and then the loving home that she is now in. Show the before and after photos. You see what we're doing? It's so clear now after you take the who you are, what's the problem, what solution, and then share the transformation. It becomes alive in the donor's minds and it draws them in. So after you answer these questions, you should have a clear and compelling message. I want you to try it. Consider it your organization's value proposition, like a case statement, but it's shorter and I think much more powerful. Okay, let's move on to the second focus area. I've got 4, and it's developing the skills of a fundraising leader. That's you. You want to be constantly growing and expanding. Let's look at the top characteristics of successful fundraisers. Identified these characteristics that I think a nonprofit leader must embrace. If you're seeking major gifts, you must become proficient in these areas, all of them. They're all attributes that you can strengthen. I mean, it's not like you're born with them, you can't do this. You can strengthen these. So let me go over them just briefly, because I think they're important in your development and expanding as you grow. First one, I think you know, this is integrity, and this means being honest, trustworthy, and dependable. You'll find this at the top of many qualification lists for effective fundraising leaders. People must be able to trust you with their gifts. The second one is passion for the organization. I want to come back to this one. The third one is being a good listener. Practice listening and asking thoughtful questions. Start now with your staff, your spouse, your significant other, your friends, and certainly your donors. Practice listening and asking thoughtful questions. Are you talking more than you're listening? Are you asking good questions? If you're listening, you should be able to ask pertinent and thoughtful questions. The fourth one is confidence, and I think this is a big one. You must believe in yourself and what you're doing with the organization. People want to follow a leader who is confident. They will believe in you and your message if you believe in you and the mission of your organization. Fifth one is persistence. You can't just check in with a donor when you feel like it or you think about them on a whim. You've got to be persistent and have a system. The sixth one is goal-driven, Meet with your staff to identify your organization's annual goals. You need to have a strategic plan in place or strategic priorities in place. Now, for personal and professional use, I'll have to tell you, I use Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner. It's a system. It keeps me, I use it for personal and professional, like I just said. It has been a game changer for me. But you know, find your own system. But I set my annual goals. They drive my quarterly goals, my weekly goals, and my daily goals. I keep this planner on my desk every day. Fearlessness is the 7th one. That goes along with confidence, I believe. To me, being fearless means having an open mind, being curious, being unafraid, and taking action. Number 8 is love for people. You know, not everyone loves to be with people. You must enjoy interacting with people. It really is that simple. Being a good communicator, you should have strong written and verbal skills. If you need brushing up, take an online course. Same for storytelling. Take an online course if you need help in this area. Practice writing and telling stories that share the impact of your organization. This is so important. Stamina. Fundraising is hard work. Not only that, you have to be resilient when a donor says no, and it will happen. You must keep going and following and moving forward. Being creative. Be a problem solver. Surround yourself with creative people if you're lacking in the creative space. And then last, self-awareness. You must have self-awareness. Be a good listener is an example that we just talked about of self-awareness. Everyone should have read Travis Bradberry's Emotional Intelligence book. That's a quick read on emotional intelligence and self-awareness. Okay, I want to go back to passion. Identify your passion story. I have a friend who is the development director of a child care resource organization. They provide training and other services to child care centers. Her husband was raised by a single parent, and she knows the hardship he had. While his life was relatively normal, there were struggles. She cannot imagine not having a stable environment. That is her passion story that she connects her to the mission of her organization. She shares it with donors when appropriate. So know what connects you to your mission. What is your story that connects you to your mission? When you tell it, your passion will show through and it will ignite others. It's so important to find that connection in your own personal passion story of why you are at your organization and raising money. It ignites into others. Okay, let's look at one big piece of advice when it comes to growing as a leader. I'm sorry, I'm trying to multitask here. Okay, find a mentor, sorry. So find a mentor. I think that's a really important thing here. Success is continuously refining and improving who we are and how we serve. And I think you should decide now on your own that you're going to be your own best advocate and advocate for yourself. Know what areas about nonprofit work and major gift fundraising you need to strengthen. If you're not on a path of growing and expanding, start by intentionally filling your day and your activities with people who can help you. Actively seek a mentor. If you don't have a suitable sounding board, find one. Observe people with attributes you admire and want to emulate. Consider individuals whose opinions you value and principles that align with yours and with whom you have a great rapport. Look online for coaches if you need to. But think about who's guiding you in your professional journey. Consider a group of people like a mastermind, or several people like mentors, or just one person like a coach or a sponsor who can help advance you professionally. This spills over into your personal life. I think it's so important. Having mentors in my life when I look back was a game changer, and I can't imagine moving forward without them, just being by myself. So that's a really important thing, and it's a big thing for me. So let's look at this before we move on to the third area, the third focus. Now that you have your clear and compelling message and you're at the best, at the top of your game because you have confidence, you're a great communicator, and you're working on the other attributes with a mentor or coach, you're now ready to focus on the board. You've got to engage your board. So you want to utilize your board's connections. You have to engage your board if you want to be successful in major gift fundraising. It's that simple. You will not be as successful if you try to do it alone. You simply can go further faster with board members engaged. Plus, you're denying board members their opportunity to serve if you're not engaging them. It would be likely that it'll take you longer or maybe not at all in reaching your fundraising goals without the help of the board. You may not be able to get appointments with certain people without a board introduction. And if you are even successful in setting an appointment, you have an uphill battle. Busy people put a lot of weight on referrals and introductions when carving out time on their busy schedules. They rely on people they trust, and a board member can help you with an introduction. The potential donor will pay closer attention to what you have to say when there's an introduction. And speaking of board members, I have a criteria I have identified of the ideal board member. Let's look at that. I want to share that with you. Here we go. This is a 4-point checklist I use for identifying ideal board members. This is what I believe are important. In 2017 and 18, I believe it was, started 2 years ago, I interviewed over a dozen highly successful board chairs and asked them a set of questions. And here are the attributes that came out of those conversations. The first one, as you see, is they must be passionate about the cause. Board members must, it's number one, they must have a strong connection to the mission of your organization. You want board members to become champions, tell stories, and be raving advocates for your organization. Number two, you want them to have tentacles in the community, and community is what you define. You may be in a small community, a state, a region. It could be, that community is defined by you. But it's extremely valuable when your board members have strong connections in your community. Third, they must be action-oriented. Someone may be passionate, have connections in your community, but if they don't help you in any way, they are not contributing to advancing the mission. Board members must be willing to reach out to their connectors for support and introductions. And then fourth, they must make a personal gift. It's important for your board to have 100% board giving participation. That is the true tell sign of commitment. There's skin in the game. It also signals to grantors that your board is committed to the organization. I believe every board member should make a personal gift. It doesn't matter how much, doesn't matter the size, the fact that they gave something. I have a quick story when I think about board members, and I have several board member stories, but I had a board member who told me he didn't know how to help me with fundraising. It just was not his thing. He was not comfortable, it just wasn't his thing. So I had a trip planned to DC to meet with a potential donor to ask him for $50,000. And I asked this board member to join me since he lived there. He was reluctant at first, but he agreed. And we sat down and we planned out our visit, how it would go, who would say what, and just what we anticipated. So we planned ahead for that time. He was wonderful on this visit. He was a high-profile person who shared how he and his wife supported the organization and why they supported it. He felt so good afterwards about helping. He felt he was contributing to the donor giving process, and he was. So I think about that because he was just so not, this is not my thing. And I just said, come join me, and just you being there will make a big difference, and it was. It was huge. So consider these 4 attributes when you're bringing on new board members. And speaking of the donor giving process, I want to take a look and share with you an exercise I do with the board that I think everyone should consider, and it's educating the board. But before I get off of this, I have a free script that is always on my website that is to share with board members how to ask for a gift. It's a free script of how to ask for a gift. So I'll share my website later at the end of this session. But I want to share with you what I do with boards when I work with them, like on retreats, to help educate them about donor giving. So here's what I do. As you can see, this is the donor giving cycle, and it's one that you probably have seen, or you've seen some like it. There's several, but this is kind of the basic I think you've seen. It's the one that Buck Smith and Dave Dunlop at Cornell University started, and it's widely accepted. It's a great one. So at each board meeting, what I recommend is at each board member for you to take one step in the cycle and ask board members for their input. Just take turns at each board meeting. For example, in step 1, ask board members to help in identifying new potential major donors. Share a list with them and ask who's missing. Give them the criteria for a major donor prospect. And you probably know this, or I don't know if I came up with this or if I borrowed this from someone, but a major donor prospect is one who has to have passion. They have to have the ability to make a meaningful gift, and they have to be philanthropic. It's really those 3 things. So share with your board members what you're looking for when you're identifying major donors. So let's look at each step just quickly. You probably are, this is a refresher, or maybe it's a new introduction to the process, but it's a good refresher. I don't think we look at this cycle enough when we're focused on major gift fundraising. It's just so good. It's a great system, and it has served me well. Actually, I use it as part of my course when I'm my course on creating major gifts program. So let's look at it. The first thing, you want to identify your donors whose passion aligns with your mission. You begin to provide information about your organization to the donors. Then you start to see certain donors showing an interest in your organization. You begin to involve them more deeply. Then at the right time, you invite them to invest for a gift, and then you keep the donors engaged and informed, and you make sure they feel valued and appreciate. That's your stewarding. So that's the cycle that you really should be constantly focused on in your major gift program. And it starts over. You want to advance each major donor so that they continue to give and give at an increased level. So share it with your board. When they understand your process, they will be more inclined to help you. Okay, this next section is critical to your major gift fundraising success. You have a clear, compelling message. You are now ready to tackle the world, and you've got an engaged board. You must make sure the donor experience is over the top. If you want your major donors to continue to give and give more, you must enhance the donor's experience when they give. Let's look at this. Stanford researcher Jamal Zaki says that kindness is like psychological chocolate. It makes us feel good. Generosity has even been known to produce happiness hormones like dopamine. I love that. So let me tell you this quick story. I was sitting in my office when I was executive director of the nonprofit I recently left. My phone rang. We'll call her Mary. So Mary called. She was a major donor, and she had just read our story in our newsletter about a student struggling to cover her college expenses. The student's family had an ill father and mounting medical bills. Mary had just made a $3,000 major gift earlier in the year, but she wanted to give more. Over the phone, she immediately referenced the letter. She spoke with conviction. She said, I want to help more students like this. Mary was heartbroken reading this story, and she wanted to give another $3,000. What makes people so generous? When we in fundraising understand why people give, it changes the way we think and approach people. Remember what I said earlier, the most important thing for you to remember as a fundraiser is you are the conduit between those who have the means and the passion and those who need help. Let's take a closer look at why people give to nonprofits. This is based on my research and experience with donor giving. I believe there are 6 reasons people are motivated to give. Let's look at the first one. The first one is people give because they're passionate about a cause. I keep talking about passion, but it is your number one, whether it's a board member or a donor. Their number one reason is they are passionate about that cause. We rally around a cause that we're passionate about. Think about why you give to a cause. You feel strongly about the work. You feel strongly about the mission. Second is people give because they want to make a difference. They want to be a part of a solution. People find it important to help others. We want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. The third reason, I believe, is that they want to be a part of a community. You think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You probably know that one from management or business classes if that's your world. But in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he explains that we are social beings and that we want that sense of belonging. It's the same psychological need that we have when we desire a friendship or a relationship. We fulfill the need for community by joining like-minded groups or rallying around a cause that we're passionate about. Being part of a group with shared values is important for people. Let's look at the next one, trust. They have built trust with our organization. People believe in your organization and trust that the funds will be used to make a difference. People support a winning organization. They have witnessed the impact. Let's look at number 5. They feel appreciated. People feel appreciated and valued. Donors are thanked and feel appreciated. This is so important, and we control this outcome. The ball's in our court. We can make donors feel appreciated. We know this. This is, it's amazingly simple, but yet I see so many nonprofits not getting this right at all. You've heard that you heard that we need to thank a donor at least 7 times. So don't overlook how easy this is, trying to thank a donor at least 7 times. You can do a personal thank you from 2 staff members and 2 board members, and you're halfway there. It's not hard to thank a donor 7 times, written, verbal, in front of an audience. It's important to do. Just don't overlook how simple that is. An organization must let our donors know they're heroes and that they're making a difference. We must let them know their contributions are what make our work possible. And then let's look at the last one, is they're asked. We should know this one. People give because they're asked. People give to people. We know this. We know someone who has suffered from a disease or tornado or a certain situation. So we want to help our friends and community. We are simply asked. Okay, so when I'm going to move on to, uncovering a donor's values and interest and passion. We know why people give. And the next step, after you think about why people give, it's important to uncover your donor's values, interest, and passion. That's your next step. And the reason why it's important to uncover a donor's interest, values, understand their passions, is you want to know what inspires them, what motivates them, what pulls at the heartstring that makes a person support your organization. You want to get to know your donor better. You want to build a relationship based on trust. When you know your donors, you can better align their gifts with their values and interests and passions. And then when you're messaging to your donors, when you're talking with them, you can be specific and relevant about their interest with that ask. You want to better understand your donors. You care deeply about your donors and their desires to help others. So how do you uncover that? How do you uncover your donors' passions? You ask them. You simply ask them. Here's the way to do it. When you're thanking a donor for their past gift, this is the perfect and most natural time to say, you're so generous. What makes you support our organization? Or what excites you about giving to our organization? Or simply say, what makes you continue to give? Just ask in a very organic conversation, thank you so much. What makes you continue to give? We appreciate what you do so much. You will learn so much. As you can see, we are on this trail to engage your donors more. One way to do this is by asking why they give. Engaging your potential and current major donors in your organization's work is key to raising more money. They become part of your family. Remember, some of the reasons people give is they want to make a difference. They want to be part of a community. They are passionate about the cause. It's important to engage your donors in your organization. Let's look at ways to do that. And I bet you know these. First one, always, this is the #1 way to engage a donor, and we're talking major donors here, is to ask for advice. We've all heard the saying, if you want advice, ask for money. If you want money, ask for advice. I'm afraid it's true. Give donors who want to help an opportunity to engage. They can be a great source for you. They've likely run successful businesses. They can provide feedback on marketing, finance, strategic planning, or program needs. They can provide great advice in certain areas of your organization that needs attention. Consider asking them to write an article for a newsletter, maybe to review a document, maybe to review a proposed new logo, all depending on their expertise. The second way, or another great way, is just to share updates. These are donors. These are either current donors or potential donors. But if you've got a current donor, we often think that we don't want to bother our donors, that we're bothering them. But they appreciate it and they want to hear from us. And it's a great way if you just call to share or go by and visit with your donors. Call them ahead of time and tell them you'd like to give them an update. Contact them, share that you'll want to meet them for coffee or drop by. Maybe invite them for a tour. Maybe they've not met the executive director or the board chair. Personally invite them to an event. Maybe you've got a program, a lecture, a performance. You've got something coming up. Personally invite those donors to your events. Don't just send out a mailing, a save the date card and an invitation and then expect them to be there. Personally call them and tell them that you want to be there. I think we underestimate that personal ask to join you somewhere. So don't let that one go by. Another one is to invite them to volunteer. Invite your donors to volunteer, and you would be surprised at how they would like to be engaged until you ask. You know your donors because you've asked them. You've already asked them why they give, so you know their passions. Maybe invite them to mentor, to read to a class, to foster a puppy. Ask them how they want to be more engaged. You don't know until you ask. I think we just hold back on all these things. I'm really pushing you to engage with your donors more. Ask them. They're your friends. They're your family. They're just part of your organization. After you've engaged your donors, you want to ask them to invest. And now that you know your donors, you're going to match the needs and the opportunities of your organization with the interests, the passions, and the values of your donors. That's when you know you're ready. To engage them, you match that. You've already prepared for this moment. You want to help people fulfill their desires. This is the base of major gift fundraising. Okay, when you're asking for investment, remember, you're the conduit between those who have the means and those in need. That's the core of what I want you to remember, and it just changes everything when you know that's what you're doing. You've learned why people give now, and you know their passions. You're ready to ask them to invest, and they'll probably jump up and down. They're ready to jump up and down. They're ready to give. After you ask, you steward. Stewardship is how you make a person feel. It's things like sending special cards or sending a birthday card, a Valentine's card. Consider cards that say, I miss you, congratulations, and sympathy. Have a stash of cards in your drawer. Always add a personal note. But stewardship is ongoing. It's not a checkoff. It's not a checkoff list once you've had someone give. You're constantly stewarding that like you do a friend. You keep that relationship going. Your relationship continues with engaging them even more. There are more gifts from these major gifts. They are just testing you out. Okay, so to enhance the donor experience, this is the last focus area that we looked at, number 4, to enhance the donor experience. You understand why people give. You understand a donor's values, interests, and passions. You engage the donor intentionally in meaningful, thoughtful ways. You align the passions of the donors with the needs and opportunities of the organization, and you make the donor feel valued and appreciated. That's the package of that, enhancing the donor experience. Okay, to wrap, you know what, I did that talking without forwarding my slide, I apologize. So to wrap up, looking at focusing on major gift fundraising, your 4 areas are you are creating clear and compelling messages. You want to grow as a fundraising leader. You want to engage your board, and you want to enhance the donor experience. I have a course coming out in June that focuses on major gift fundraising that's all about enhancing the donor experience. It's called Fundraising Maximized, your guide to creating a major gift program. It's a step-by-step program in building your major gift program, and I'll walk you through each of the steps. I feel so strongly in these 4 areas that I think it's what can lead you to success if you just get these right, and where you need to focus your time, streamline your time. Jay, that's my power conversation about major gifts, and I did it in 45 minutes. I'm thrilled. So I'm going to stop and see what questions may have come in. I tend to go fast, so I apologize. If there are any questions, certainly I'd love to answer them. Anything I touched on that I really didn't elaborate on.
Well, and I'm sure because people were intent on your every word and you were moving quickly, the questions will probably be rolling in more now. But, oh, I was just going to ask you for that. So thank you very much. This is obviously your contact information. So everybody, please do take this down. This is how you can reach Nancy, and you can see her site as well as that one document you referenced, Nancy, the questions that you can ask a donor. I think that's what you were talking about, or board members, excuse me.
Yeah.
It'd be a great document. You probably have other things there of interest as well, and your email address is right there. And by the way, that email address, that may be the email address from which the slide deck will be coming to you. So be on the lookout for this slide deck in the next couple of days. And just as a reminder, in case you didn't hear this at the beginning of the program, that is that a recording of this session, including her answers to the questions I'm about to share with her, those will be part of the recording, of course, and all of this will be posted under the resources tab, Flash Class Library of recordings at the DonorSearch.net site in the next couple of days. So be on the lookout for that. So I'm going to hop right back into the questions, and we do have a number here now. The first ones came in, and they were almost identical from Wanda and from Marin, who had asked about the name of the planner that you use. You said that very quickly. What is the planner that you use?
It is Michael Hyatt, Hyatt, Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner. That's what I use. I've used it for in my 2nd year, and it's been a game changer for me. I just can't say enough about it. And he has all kinds of online programs. I would follow him on actually Instagram. He has amazing things on Instagram. Michael Hyatt, Full Focus Planner, but just Michael Hyatt. He's fantastic. He's a leadership coach, online leadership coach, and his focus is on productivity.
Yeah, I'm familiar with his name, and I always think about marketing, but you're right. He's definitely somebody to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. There's a question from Hope, who asked, "What advice do you have for organizations where the board is either not philanthropic or well connected to those with means?"
Well, it's not unusual, number one. So, I gave you an ideal looking board member, and you should aspire to have that. But I think, here's what I would do. If you have a few, you really just need 1 or 2 board members who fit that ideal board member, who are philanthropic, they're connected in the community, and they don't have, if there's one thing that you can move out of that, it's the connected in the community. You can have really hardworking people that move the mission forward that just may not be connected, but get a 1 or 2 board members who are ideal, and you let them share what they're doing, like at a board meeting. You kind of highlight them because they become a model for other board members. And it takes time to kind of change that culture of your board. It absolutely takes time. But as you bring new ones on, be very thoughtful of who you bring on. Don't keep bringing on dead weight, and I hate to say this, just people who are filling a seat because they're building their resume. I mean, you don't want that. You don't have time for that. You need to raise money, and you have a mission to advance. You're serious. You want serious board members, and
Right.
Those are the criteria that came from my interviews, and I think they're very powerful. That's what you should aspire to be, and know that. Don't beat yourself up if it's not like it should be. It takes time.
Just to add on to that question, if you don't mind, Nancy,
Sure.
I mean, there are some situations where maybe a person might have even inherited that board.
Yeah.
The board members have been there for a long time. Perhaps there's no term limits, Have you worked to do things such as expansion of a board or bringing on an advisory board as a step to the board or anything of that nature that would help to bring in some new energy and new talent and resources?
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely, it's a slow process. And I would, if you've got some people on the board you've inherited, that was the first part of your question, is that you've inherited, and you don't have term limits, you do need to pull a ad hoc committee together and review your bylaws. You need term limits. You absolutely need opportunity to roll people off and on. And I had a situation where I had a board member, it was time for him to roll off, and he was having some health issues. And so the board chair took care of it, sat with him and said, you know, maybe you ought to think of, it's hard for you to get to the board meetings and to participate, and maybe, you know, it's a good time to roll off. And so he helped me take care of that. A board chair is, you know, you really want a good board chair that can help you with things like that. And I know sometimes you don't have that, but yeah, you need to take steps. If you inherited something, start now. Getting the right people on the board, just, it takes one or two. I mean, a one or two can change a whole culture of a board. It changes the whole personality of the board. When you get 2 or 3 dynamics, the others will start to see what they should be doing. Or if they're not, and if they're not committed, they may well self-identify to roll off, and let them roll off. It's okay. You know, I talked, I think, on one of my blogs about firing board members. I was being a little bit funny because you don't say you're fired, but you kind of want them to roll off. But they're not helping, it's time to roll off.
Now, sometimes that's also something that's going on with the senior staff. I mean, it could be the executive director, and Charity asks, how do you engage your board when your ED tells you they're not going to help with fundraising?
When the executive director says that the
Yes,
board,
and in this question, I don't know if the question is that the ED is not going to help with fundraising, or that the executive director is saying that the board won't help you. But I guess those are 2 different possible scenarios, right? I mean, one is they're acting as a barrier. Another one is the executive director just doesn't see it's his or her role.
oh, it is the role of the board and the executive director, I'd say. I mean, I guess there could be some situations not, but I'd say, I mean, you're a nonprofit. I mean, everybody
Right.
on the call should be a nonprofit, and you're raising money. You may not need 100% from charity. You might get some government and some other revenue streams. You may be selling something, offering something, but you're there to raise money. And a board member, it should be in their letter of commitment. That should be one of the bullets, is their responsibilities. Their responsibility is to raise money. And the executive director, I'd say, is too. Jay, is there a situation where that's not true? I mean, I can't think of any reason. These are nonprofits.
I can't, although we had another point from Janelle, which is very interesting, because I have run into this. It's a little different, but it's kind of related. She said, our organization is a national membership organization and a nonprofit. So membership organizations, and I know you know this, are a little different. Our board is entirely made up of dues paying members. How do you approach them about a give or get, you know, kind of dollar thing? And I have run into situations where you have these elected boards. So Janelle hasn't said that specifically, but I know that can be an issue. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, you decide, is this a fundraising board? I mean, you know, I was with an organization that we started a separate 501c3 that was focused on with a fundraising board. That was the arm of fundraising, and the membership side was not focused on fundraising. So you could have a board that's a non-fundraising board, but if you're a nonprofit and you're raising money, you need to decide if that's what the board is for, if that is a duty or responsibility of the board. So, I mean, I know there are unique situations that it may not be true. So I was with the organization that there was a membership, a board focused on the programs, and then there was another board focused on fundraising. So if you're a nonprofit and you've got to raise money, the board and the executive director should be raising money.
Yeah, it's. I know that the board structure, so some of these things are challenging, but there's no reason why you can't add and bring that talent to bear. There's another question from Steve. He asked about because he missed that portion of the slides, about the second reason why people give.
The second reason, was it community? I have to flip back through my slides. Let's see. I can find it. The first one is passion. The second is they want to make a difference. They want to be a part of a solution. People like to be a part of something bigger than themselves. Is that what he's
Mm.
asking?
Yes, yes. Do you want to hit the other ones just really quickly? It was such a great
Yeah.
passion.
The first one is passion. People give because they're passionate about the cause. That's number one. That is number one. The second is they want to make a difference. They like being a part of something bigger than themselves. And the third is that sense of community, of being with like-minded people. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it in so many different organizations. It's, you know, they become part of your family. It's just that community. It's so important to human spirit. Then there's that trust factor. That's very important. I think donors, especially major donors, will give a little the first time, and then they see what you do with it, and they see how you react to it or don't react to it. You're building trust, and especially if it's a major gift, it gets bigger and bigger, and we're talking about large gifts. They have built trust. There is definitely a trust factor there. The fourth one is you feel the donor feels appreciated and valued. This is the one I think we really do a really poor job of. We think that we've sent that letter out and we thank them one time, and then it's time again for an annual event, and then we come around and ask them. We are really not, I think, overall, we don't thank our donors enough and show appreciation. I just think we could bump that up all the way around, and we would start to see money flowing much more faster. The last one is people are asked. They are asked. You know, think about you personally. If there's something you're passionate about and someone says, would you consider, you know, $1,000 to this cause? And it's something I'm extremely passionate about. And I am in that, you know, if I were in that category of that I could give 1,000 or 50,000 or whatever it is, then people give if you ask. I mean, we're so fearful of asking, and I know that's part of the fear of fundraising. And I have a blog about fear of fundraising, and I think we have to just push past it and not take it personally, but we've got to ask.
It's so funny because you talked about that endorphin rush of, you know, the chocolate effect earlier in the presentation. I love that analogy because can you imagine if you had this big, beautiful box of luscious chocolates right there on your desk and someone visited you and you refuse to offer them any of your chocolate? So not asking people if they're willing to support what they're sitting there in the office loving about your work and then refusing to ask them to participate. Isn't that sort of like you give them this delicious food on your desk?
That is great. I love that, Jay. Oh my gosh, I love that you connected that. That's so funny. I have not thought about that, but I've just thought about, you know, I think people, if you are stewarding someone or you're cultivating someone, you're engaging them, and then you don't ask them, it's a little bit of a letdown. It's kind of like the chocolate is sitting there and you're not going to offer it to me. People want to give. I mean, they really do. I mean, look, our nation, it hit, if you look at the latest numbers from the, I forgot what it's called, just went blank, out of Indiana University.
Sure.
We hit yes, Giving USA, thank you. We hit record giving ever in 2017, our latest numbers. $410 billion was given to charities in 2017. It had never gone over 400 billion before. So, I mean, what does that tell you? 400, that's an economy. I mean, $410 billion, people are charitable. But if we're not asking them, someone else, another nonprofit is going to be working them and asking them, and they're going to give. You're missing out if you're not asking.
Right. Well, maybe that's a wonderful place to end. And I want to thank you very much, Nancy, for this great presentation, all this great content, and of course your willingness to stay and answer some questions. If there are any questions that were unanswered, those will be passed on to Nancy, so she'll have that content. If you have anything else you want to ask right now, just go ahead and post it. We'll make sure to pass it along to her. And once again, if you'd like, you'll find in your email a copy of the slide deck coming to you in the next couple of days, a recording of the session posted at DonorSearch.net under the Resources tab, right there in the Flash Class Library. So do share this with people at your organization who maybe are afraid to ask or just need a nice flight path to see why it's really a great experience for the donor and for us. Thank you very much, Nancy. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
And I also want to tell everybody who's on the line with us that tomorrow we have another great session coming up. It's tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern on the Great Gift Pyramids, a wonder of the world. That's Michael Rubin speaking. And if you're making a note in your calendar for next week, we have 2 more sessions coming up then on the cusp of the month. The first one is on Tuesday at 3 p.m. with Bruce Scott, presenting on tools for development leadership that accelerate major donor engagement, should parallel to some of the things that Nancy's been sharing with us today. And then on Wednesday of next week at 3 p.m., jump starting your calendar for year-end fundraising with Robin Cabral. It's never too early to start getting prepared for the end of year. Again, our thanks to Nancy. Always our thanks to DonorSearch for providing this platform where people like Nancy can come on and share ideas with us, and to all of you for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you all next time. Till then, take care.